Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
So welcome everybody today to another podcast episode. We have a very special guest. So Anna is actually my personal CPA, and so I'm super excited. I think there's so much to learn about taxes, but more importantly, when you choose somebody that has personality, who has good looks, who has the right mindset. So there's just a few things that, how I describe Anna. So Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Before I start saying anything, I think this is a great podcast because when I first started working with Omid, he had a 9 to 5 and his goal was to get out of it. So I feel like a little bit of kudos to you because a lot of people talk a lot, but they don't actually walk the talk. So you did it. So congratulations on that. I'm so excited for you.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate it. And what's funny is I think a lot of people, they're scared of making the leap, but I think a lot of it also comes with planning and having the right person on your side, and you have that skill set where I think you've helped so many people along the way, kind of move them in the right direction. When wealth planning, but also moving them in a way where they're in a position to be successful. So yeah, so we want to hear about you. So this is more about you. So it's I think there's so many CPAs out there, and my idea of a CPA is numbers and number crunching, and kind of a session is boring. And every time I hop on the phone with you, I feel like it's fun. It's not accounting. So tell us your backstory. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and so people can get to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So long story short, I don't want to bore anyone, but I was born and raised in Mexico till I was about 13 years old. My mom met a American guy and in a club in Mexico, and he was like, this is it, wiped her up right away. We moved to the United States. We lived in California for about a year. And then somehow, he's from Wisconsin. So we ended up moving to Wisconsin after that and lived there for about 20 years. And then I just recently moved to Dallas. So that's the long story short. But in the meantime, I've always been surrounded with entrepreneurs. And I guess you don't really realize that until you're older and you know what an entrepreneur really is. So came to the United States, did what everybody did, went to school, went to college. And right when I got into public accounting, so if a lot of people don't know, public accounting, I always refer to as you work 90 hours a week. There is no life. I mean, it's tax season. It's crazy. And they kind of just put this in your head when you're when you are in college that, hey, for the next 5 to 6 years, you're going to grind. And it's there's nothing wrong with grinding, you got to, I always say, you got to start from the bottom. But I got there, you guys, and I hated it. Someone telling me what to do. I had to be there at 8 a.m. and you had to bill hours. It was horrible. And then after that, you were expected to go to happy hour with your partners and your bosses. And I'm no, I don't care enough. I don't like y'all enough. I'm good. I want to go home, get drunk with my friends at 22 years old, not with my partners. So I made it 2 months. I was I'm not doing this. I cannot have someone tell me what to do all the time. So I quit. And I went to I went to a private firm, and I was I'm going to be the best CFO of the world. I cannot wait, maybe Amazon, something badass. And it was the same. It was the same thing. The grass ain't greener on the other side. It's still a 9 to 5. So you still have a boss. It was horrible. So, long story short, one day I came to my mom and I was hey, I really, really want to start a business. I didn't know how to do taxes. A lot of people think that every accountant knows how to do taxes, and that is not true. But so I still had a job. I was okay, well, I'm not going to quit my job and just go, by myself. So I think that has a lot to do with what you said on me. That's you have to plan. So I remember this a couple over Thanksgiving. I was at home, and there was a guy who owns a grocery store in Milwaukee. And he's like, Anna, he's like, do you remember when you were coming here? And I had some janky like business cards from Vistaprint with an ugly picture. And I remember after work, I would go and I would sit outside and I would hand out business cards to every person that would walk. And I forgot that story. And I was like crying because I was like, dang, like I really did hustle. Like I was out there. Whoever wanted to let me have their tax returns, I did. So anyways, long story short, I ended up quitting my job and I started my business, and now I would never in my life go back to a 9 to 5. I mean, now my clients are my bosses, but now I can work whenever I want.
Boom, 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 boom. Aaron, that is super inspirational. And man, there's just so many things, to unpack there. So, but let's back this story up, right? Because, one of the things you mentioned is that you came here when you were 13. Right. So, obviously this is a totally different country. Did you know how to speak English? Did you have a tough time in school? Like, give us what it was like transition from moving from Mexico here at 13, which is like a prime age of your life, right? Coming to.
Yeah, that was, I would say, very difficult. My English is still sometimes not I mean, I don't have a really thick accent, but there are times where I forget a lot of words and I'm like, sorry, you guys, English is my second language. Like I'm trying. But when I first moved here, I did have a really hard time because my English was so bad. I remember someone made fun of me because I said tree instead of three. And then I just eventually when you're older, you just learn to embrace it. I mean, I remember in high school, I didn't even know what a green card was. And people were like, oh, do you have a green card? And I was like, I didn't know. So then I went home and I was like, Mom, do we have a green card? And I was like, someone's asking you that? And I was like, I don't know what it is. So at first it was hard, but I think my mom, I will always attest to my mom being the backbone of us and just being a hustler. I mean, she came here and was a bus girl, at IHOP, no papers, no nothing. I mean, so I felt like if I had that role model that I could do it, but it wasn't easy, but I will say that being a business owner here and achieving your dreams in the United States is so much easier than in Mexico. And I think that's why when people are always like, oh, it's hard here. And it's like, y'all have never been to a different country where it is hard. Here, people give you loans, people give you money. The networking in Mexico, it's a very sad situation. I can only speak for Mexico, right? Where it's a lot harder to become, just actually do anything, be successful. It's really, really hard.
I think that really resonates with me. It's both my parents, they came to the country illegally. They worked blue collar jobs, and all they had is really the work ethic to kind of that big dream. So for me, I think that was passed on to me as far as, hey, you got to work hard and find your opportunities. And you always think about the American dream, and that always evolves. And I think I see you and your story and how that's evolved. Coming here, doing the traditional things you're supposed to do, and then building this entrepreneurial mindset, and then finding even more opportunities through the network that you built. And from studying you, I think sometimes there's what's not really shared a lot is kind of your work ethic and all the things that you've done to kind of go to where you've been. You even talk about, oh, you're handing out these janky cards, and I feel like that's a big part of the journey. So walk me through even you not knowing anything about real estate and how your process around building that knowledge. So let's say somebody wants to get started in something, what do they do? Because it's when I've heard your story, it's you did quite a bit just to get to where you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I will put myself in this situation. I mean, everyone is scared. It is so scary to do anything new. So no one who's successful is going to sit here and be like, oh, well, it was so easy. I had all this money, no fear. Get out of here. That's not true. Everyone is scared because you go from a 9 to 5 where you get a paycheck every week, and now you're like, Jesus, please give me some money. Someone loved me enough to give me some, So it is hard, but I would say, excuse me, I would say that the biggest thing for me was, and I will say this again, is seeing my mom, that she came here with nothing, and realized that it could be done. However, planning is key. You have to plan, but it's also not for everybody. It is very hard, but you just put in work, and I promise you it's worth it. You do have to grind for a while. You do have to literally start from the bottom. I mean, my first meeting that I took as my owner, I mean, I was like 25, and I remember walking into the meeting and the guy was like, "Oh, well, where's your owner or where's your boss?" And it was like very disrespectful, right? But at the same time, it's like there's this guy who's 50 years old looking at a 25-year-old. I think in my head now, I put myself in his shoes, and it's like I would have probably said the same thing. But it's like you cannot stop ever. Like you just gotta go. And I feel like that, and I'm very religious. So I'm always like praying, and I'm always like, okay, like if this is for me, this will be for me. So for me, it's hard. Like you just gotta keep going. There is no easy path.
Boom, boom, boom. I love it. And that's strong. Letting everybody know the path might not be easy, but it's well worth it at the end by you taking the journey. I always tell people, hey, I put up this picture. It's two of them, right? And there's one person on the cliff looking down at the water. And I say that's 99% of the people. And then there's another picture where the guy jumped, and that's 1%. And I say, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to land on water, right? You're not going to die or anything like that. But some of the things that you mentioned just by saying, hey, I watch my mom and her work ethic, and, I think about myself too, and I watch my mom and her work ethic. And you also said, planning, right, is key. And I would sit there and add to that, tie in some goals and some action taking, and you become a bad mamma jamma. So, kind of moving on to, I see you went to the University of Milwaukee.
Yes, I went to Madison for 2 years, and then I partied way too hard. I went. Everybody does.
You got to party. That's the big part of it.
What made you go into the accounting world? Like what was the eye opener there?
So my mom was an accountant in Mexico. And then honestly, I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I took an accounting class in high school, and I loved it. And I feel like not everybody knows what they're going to do when they go to college. And that is totally fine, totally fine. But I knew from the beginning that I was like, I'm going to be a CPA. I'm going to be an accountant. So that's literally the only reason why I decided to go into accounting.
So yeah, I guess, so you do the accounting thing, and so why did you decide this is not for me? And like, walk us through kind of like your process. So now you've kind of built up your system. So share some of your insight as far as your philosophy around how you built your business, because I've seen like it's like virtual, and it's work your own hours whenever you want and get that done. So like, what's the inspiration behind that?
Yeah. So after, I was grinding and I started my business, I knew, I mean, at the beginning, it was definitely still in Milwaukee. I had an office where people could come in. But I realized I honestly, you guys, hate the cold. Like coming from Mexico, I'm like, Mom, like you could have picked any other man in your life. But no, I was just kidding. I love my stepdad, but I'm like, Milwaukee is so, I mean, anyone who's lived up there knows that it's 9 out of the 12 months. It's cold, dark by 4 o'clock. It's depressing. And I was like, I don't want this. So I'm going to build a business where I can go and work from anywhere. That was my motivation only. I just wanted to be able to pick up. And obviously my entire family is in Mexico. I wanted to be able to not have to ask anybody when I can go, where I could work. So that was the only motivation. That was pre-COVID. So that was really hard to talk to people and say, hey, I'm a CPA who's doing virtual. They're like, absolutely not. Like, what do you mean I'm going to give you my social security over? Like it was like old school. So COVID really helped me help people realize that everything was really moving to virtual. And now, like I said, like now I want to move to Miami. Like if I want to go to Spain, I could do it. So that was only the motivation for me to have my own business, and for it to be virtual. I never wanted to be stuck in one place.
That's beautiful, right? Because being virtual and making a decision to say, hey, I want to be in Miami today, Dallas tomorrow, California next day, and then go back home to my Milwaukee, it is a fantastic thing and a fantastic business to set up. So I believe that you mentioned a couple of things that it was Let's talk about that a little bit in your mindset behind it, because sometimes some things are tough where you like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm done with people, and I'm going to go back and just put up with my, 2 bi-week paycheck. At least I know I'm going to get it. Like, tell us some of the things that you have done, books you may have read, people you may have talked to that inspired you to keep going.
I would say that the amount of times, like, there, when you were talking about, Lenny, those memes or those diagrams people see, also there's that diagram with the iceberg where everyone sees when you're at the top. They're like, oh, that was easy. And it's like, no, like when I got to college, I was obviously, I quit that job of working 90 hours, but I was still working 90 hours in my business. I mean, I didn't see friends. I was studying for my CPA. I was working till 1 a.m. At 6 a.m, you wake up. In the summers when it's nice in Milwaukee, I remember my family would be like, hey, you want to do something? Like, nope, can't, because I'm grinding to get my business, because I want to get to a point where that is. So there were so many times where I remember I'm a crier. I would just cry, and I'm like, is this the right thing for me? Like, I'm missing out time with my family. I mean, I think for me, that's the most important thing. I'm missing time with my family. At that time I was married. I was like, is this the right thing for me? And to me, I was always just like, my mom would tell me, and I keep going back to my mom, but it was like, she's like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. She's like, you gotta keep doing it. I would pray. But I wanted to quit every day. Like every day. Like, I'm not lying. I'd be like, oh, dude, this is so much work. Like, I could go back to the 9 to 5, and at 5 o'clock I clocked out. But now looking back at it, that's when anyone wants to start their business, like, you will cry. There will be hurdles. There will be everything in the world you could think of will be thrown at you. But now you're just going to have to realize, how bad do you want it? Because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, where now I'm like, I can just leave to Miami tomorrow. Like, obviously I still have a lot of work to do, but I've put in the work, but there's still a lot of work to do. Also, mentors. Everyone talks about them, and they do not get enough credit about the mentors in your world where you want to be, whether that's financially, in real estate, spiritually, whatever it is. I got a mentor, and I remember that mentor was like, well, he would hold me accountable, because y'all, we can say we hold ourselves accountable, but we don't. We're like, oh, let's just get done tomorrow. That Netflix series is out. TikTok is, we don't. Like, there is nobody out there who's like, I love those people who are like, I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. Yeah, okay. But you have a mentor. But it's true though, like, everyone be posting on Instagram all this stuff. I'm like, post the dirty stuff where you're in bed at 7 o'clock watching TikTok, not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But the mentors will hold you accountable. Like, hey, what was your goal? Did you get that goal done? So having mentors and people who think alike, that will also be a game changer.
All right, so touching on the mentor piece, because I think that's huge, and I think that's often not talked about as much, or even like an accountability partner. So walk me through, like, somebody is new or wants to build that accountability partner. Where do they find them, and how do they set that up, I guess?
Well, first of all, don't cheap out on this. Like, people will be like, oh my God, it's a couple $1,000s. Number one, pay what you get for it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, even when I was broke, I remember my mentor was $5,000. And at that time I was like, I had no money. Like, I was broke.
Yeah.
And even that's still a lot of money. So what I would say is, number one, find the money, the investment that you put in. It's an investment. I always say, why work harder? Like, if there's a person up there who's like, you want to be, okay, pay them for their time and get there faster than trying to do it on your own. So I would say, whatever field you want to, be better at, social media is always the best, right? Or like a word of mouth, like, hey, if I want to be the best at X, Y, and Z, let me find X, Y, and Z who's already doing it, see how much they charge me, and boom, just do it, and actually take their advice, because they've already done all the crap that you don't want to do. Like, it's just like a no-brainer, like, why wouldn't you pay $5,000 or $10,000 to get to where you want to be?
And that's great. And that's absolutely right. And when it comes to mentors and when it comes to coaches, I like to tell people, you never look at the price. You're supposed to look at the value in what you are getting. And that got to do with anything. I don't care if you're buying a book that costs $2 or $102. It's what you're getting out of that. So I'm very happy, you share. So to some CPA stuff, right? a lot of people really want to know, how can I save money on some taxes, right? One of the things, I saw that you're an advocate for, you correct me if I'm here, is that you're an advocate for people doing their own taxes in less than 3 minutes. I mean, but I figured the question I really had is when is the difference maker on when you should do your own taxes, and then when you at a certain point, when should you hire, people like the
Yes. So I did put out a TikTok explaining to people how taxes work, because I feel like they don't teach us this in high school. Like, they teach us like random stuff. And I'm like, we need to know how to do our own taxes. So I will always say, if you're single, married, and you have a W-2 and you do some stock trading and you own your own personal residence and you have student loan interest, H&R Block, all those really nice things that are $100, those will suffice. I don't necessarily think you need a CPA for that. Now, I do have some clients who value their time, and they're just like, I just don't really care to do that. I'm going to upload everything. Here you go, right? But it is, obviously, the cost is more to work with a CPA. But H&R Block, it literally walks you through how to do things online. However, as soon as you start getting into, you have a side business, and I always say this, whether you're driving for Uber, I always like OnlyFans is a huge thing. Like, that's a business now. A TikTok influencer, real estate, anything that is outside of a W-2, you need to find a CPA, especially in real estate, because now we're getting into how do we play the game? And like, I always say this, like, play the game. W-2 earners, like we all were, I love us, but we will pay the most amount of taxes compared to people who have businesses. So if you really want to play the game and you get mad at like Trump not paying or like anyone, like, I don't get mad. I'm just like, how do I get there? Like, and you will get there by having someone on your side who knows the tax code.
So I'm horrible at record keeping. I mean, I've improved like a little bit in increments, right? Yeah. So I see Anna kind of cringing a little bit, but I would say, like, I could see a lot of people in the population, either they don't plan in advance or they don't have the right record keeping. Like, what are some tips that you could share just so that it makes your life easier, or somebody in your position where then they can even help you to be like more effective at what you do?
Yeah. And I think, I was cringing because not because, what it's true, but at 90% of our clients are there, right? But it's because when you start a business, what do you focus on? Making money. You're like, I'm going to make money. And then you're like, oh, shoot, now I got to do taxes. I don't even know what happened yesterday. Now I got to remember if you're behind. So I think maybe the CPAs don't do a good enough job explaining to new business owners, how important it is. So there are so many apps out there like QuickBooks, Stessa, that will allow you to keep track of your income and expenses. And the reason why, obviously, to make my life easier. But at the end of the day, it's the only way you're going to be able to play the IRS game. I need to know how much money you're making every single month to realize, okay, well, you're not making enough money. You're good. Let's leave it over here. Like, oh my gosh, you're netting $1 million. Let's go buy that G-Wagon. Like, all the things that people talk about is only doable if I have numbers. So it does make, but people are just not, it's not your fault. You're just not educated on it, right? Like, it's easy for me, but not for people who are just like, I need to make money and start my business. So any business owner should definitely take some sort of course before they start their business.
All right. So, all right, Anna, let me add on to this question. I'm loving where this is going, right? All right. My name is John. I'm tuned in to the Find Your Freedom podcast, right? I see Anna. I'm loving Anna life. She moving everywhere. She's mobile, right? And that's what I aspire to do. But I got a 9 to 5. So I just start today my, internet business or whatever. Now, I don't have any money, right? Just starting from the ground up and living with mom. Now, what should I be doing to sit here and make sure that I'm moving in the right direction? Because I have dreams to be making millions and millions and millions of dollars. How can I start today? No money, broke, living with mom, 9 to 5. What are the basic things I should be putting in place at that time?
Well, I definitely think you need to start using your time wisely and finding people on Instagram or free education. The amount of free education that is on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram about starting a business, from how to start your business to how to create processes, how to do your own accounting, how to find clients. That stuff is out there. Obviously, it's not really in depth, but I would say number one, that is the number one thing you should be doing. Anything that is free. Number two, some of us, not all of us, have had more than 2 jobs. You got to grind. You got to make money. So whether that's driving for Uber, there's so many opportunities out there to have side businesses, because eventually, get a loan. You will need a good CPA and a good attorney. So definitely the free education that's out there. But obviously you need to grind to make money. But always have a good record keeping of where your money is going out and when your money is coming in order to help you better when you are making money.
Cool. No, I love that. And I think people don't know that enough, right? Like, some of those basic things, there's so many free tools out there. And I would say, like, for you, let's just say I'm starting these businesses, and now I'm thinking about strategic planning. How do I get started with that? Like, I'm planning the short-term rental business, and I'm trying to figure out this depreciation thing and plastic thing, but I don't, material participation. What do I do? Like, let's say I have a Cliff Notes version because I'm this W-2 earner and I'm so busy. I just want, like, give me the list, I'll get it done, but I'm too busy to research to figure that out. What do I do?
Absolutely. So I would say definitely find a CPA, whatever niche you're in, find a CPA that is in that niche. So whether you're real estate, you need to find someone in that. If you're manufacturing, find someone in that. When it comes to, like, a lot of people, the short-term rental is obviously the big thing right now, which obviously great cash flow, great tax benefits. Number one, find someone who's already done deals, find mentors, again, number one. And then number two, you do have to invest your time and your money finding a good CPA that's going to help you. I'm literally going to tell you the amount of times that people just don't see a CPA as an investment, but more of an expense. And they end up paying so much more money to the IRS. And every time they come to me, like, y'all know, like, I'm super honest. Like, I just, like, don't sugarcoat anymore, because I'm like, I don't know what to tell you now. And they'll be like, well, I only paid H&R Block $100. I'm like, yeah, Karen, but you paid $80,000 to the IRS. So you really ended up paying $80,100. I was like, so if we're charging you $5,000, it's like a no-brainer, But sometimes people need to hear it that way, that it's like, oh, it's common sense. But you need to find a good CPA who's going to help you. Here's the thing. You should not know everything about everything. I think people get caught up in, like, well, I have a short-term rental. I've done my taxes before. I can do this on my own. It's like, why would you do that? Would you go start? I would never go and, like, write up an offer or letter, an offer to purchase. Like, could I figure it out? I'm sure I could. Why? Just pay my realtor, have them take that 6%. I don't really care. My time is better spent elsewhere. Here's the biggest thing I will say when you are an entrepreneur and whatever you are. If you don't change your mentality about what your time is worth, you will always be stuck on that end. And that end, I'm not going to say they're not going to succeed, but it's going to take them longer. Successful people, if you hear Grant Cardone, Ryan, anyone, it's like they don't even cook because they're like, my time is better spent finding deals. So I'm going to hire a chef. My time is better spent somewhere else. It's like, you got to realize that time is money, and what is your time worth? It's not worth doing your own taxes. I promise you.
That's great. That's great. So one of the things that I really love that you said was, find a CPA in your niche. How, that's just so important. And you shouldn't know everything. There's a book called Who, Not How, right? You go out and you find, and you're shaking your head because you know it's by Dan Sullivan. You go out and you find the who's that can sit here and help you, do those things. So, all right, Anna, once again, we're back, right? Let's just stick in this real estate niche here. So, I'm a real estate guy. I'm done with my Aunt Shirley doing my taxes. I'm in the CPA world with Anna, right? And now I'm like, all right, well, what are some, like, red flags that, I should be, I should know, individual who own, real estate? Like, what are some real red flags you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you should be interviewing CPAs, not in January. I have like so many inquiries and people are like, I can't get a hold of you. I'm like, yes, Karen, it's January. You're trying to find a CPA. I'm sorry. I don't know what to, I use Karen for everything. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, Karen. Gotta go. But they'll always be like talking bad about CPAs on these forums. And I'm like, it is Karen who's trying to find a freaking CPA in January. Like, no, I'm going to call you out. Do not find a CPA in January. During the summer is the best time. So that's number one. Do not try to find a CPA. Obviously, it's doable, but it's going to be a lot harder. So the summer is number one. That's when you have time to interview CPAs. Because, you guys think I'm funny, but like maybe some other people don't think I'm funny. They're like, no, she's crazy. Like she's too loud. Like you really do have to like how do I say it? Like fit in with the person that they literally know everything about you. I know your social security. I always joke with my friends. I'm like, if you screw me over, like I know your bank account. Like I would come for you. But that might not be funny for someone else. So anyways, summer, the first one. The second thing is make sure they know the basic things about real estate. If they don't even know what cost segregation is, that's red flag number one. And it's okay. That just means they're not in real estate. If they don't know material participation for short-term rental, what the short-term rental loophole is, just definitely not. So I would always say they don't necessarily have to be investors themselves because some people really are just not into real estate, but they do need to know what real estate depreciation cost segregation is. So that would be my number one thing, cost segregation. If you don't know what that is, then, move on to the next one.
I love that. I think it's like having the right questions so you know that the person is the right fit and the right chemistry. So I guess just like before we move on from like the tax piece, like what are some common tax write-offs or benefits in general, like just from real estate that you can share with some of the listeners?
Having your own business, and real estate is having your own business, is the best thing in the world, because now I tell people, figure out a way to make your lifestyle be an expense. There was a TikTok the other day about how Kim Kardashian bought like $150 million jet because she needed an expense. So it's like all of us, not these people, because we can all attain that, right? Like it depends how hard we want. What do we want in life? Like what do you want? All the expenses that you have in your life should be a write-off. So like any trips that you take. Another reason to make things like virtual is because you have clients all over the country, right? So like if I want to go to Miami, I have some clients in Miami and I'm out on a Friday night smoking some hookah, like living my best life. But it's with my clients, like, you know what I mean? So it's like try to make your life be an expense. But obviously like normal things, like if you need a computer, the car situation is a big one. Your utilities, your home office, there's just so many things that you can write off. However, I always tell people don't get too greedy, because the one people I don't mess with is like immigration and the IRS. Like besides that, like don't mess with those two people because they will come for you. So just be careful. And if you always hear people like, well, Johnny did this, unless Johnny's showing you their tax returns, don't believe Johnny, okay? Because Johnny might be doing some shady stuff and you do not want to go to jail for that.
Well, we all know Johnny, right? I know Johnny. Johnny is a really good guy. So, one of the things I like to tell people is that, taxes are our biggest expense, right? But let's flip this a little bit. What are some of the things, because you just mentioned something I thought was really cool, make your lifestyle, basically tax deductible, right? But what are some of the things that are just not tax deductible that we really should be aware of, that there's no way in the world, dude or lady, that you're going to get this one to fly?
Yeah, there's the ones that I love. It depends on what industry you're in, right? The ones that I love are my girls who are always like, but my lashes, like I need to be in camera. And I'm like, girl, bye. No. Like because you're using those lashes for other things, right? Like my nails, like, yes, you have to look presentable, but if you are in the industry of other things, your appearance might be something that we can write off. So like it always depends. The big one in real estate that I do love is those people who have like short-term rental. They live in California. Cause I know where do you live, Lenny?
I live in Philadelphia. East Coast, baby.
The Eagles? Okay. Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes. Okay.
Oh, sorry. We tapped in something you shouldn't have. But
But the fans, though, I mean, y'all are crazy. That's a topic for a different day, but I'm happy for you guys. Okay, but let's pretend like people know he still lives in California for some reason, but he loves paying taxes because he lives in California. Um, and let's just say he has short-term rentals in Florida and the East Coast and Philly. And Omid calls me, he's like, well, you know what? Like, I really want that G-Wagon. And I'm like, for what? I'm like, are you driving to Philly every day? Like, what do you need this G-Wagon for? It's like, well, no, Johnny told me that he was able to deduct this G-Wagon. It's like, well, if you don't need it for business, you're not really driving to Philly, you know? So it's like, there is some things that are just, you're just kind of like not going to happen. And the other thing is real estate professional status, not really going to go into depth. If you have a W-2 job, not going to happen. Don't try it.
I love that. No, I think there's there's people with different levels of the spectrum as far as like, are they aggressive or are they conservative with taxes? And you kind of see, everything. I'm sure you see all, everything under the sun.
Everything.
So can I get Botox? Like if I want to do Botox?
There we go. Yeah, me too.
I was curious, like not for me, but let's say I have a cousin who's like in the real estate industry and she does YouTubes, but she has Botox like on a regular basis.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know, I mean, I'm just saying, if Sarah, since she's a YouTube lover, that is her thing, it's a little bit better for her.
Gotcha. All right.
Listen, Sarah's a friend of mine.
There you go. I love it. So, yes, I feel like we want to continue this at like part 2 maybe of this podcast. We had so much fun, and so I guess we always kind of transition it to defining, finding your freedom. So maybe if you could tell us, how you define freedom.
That was like such an easy question for me, you guys, because I feel like that's literally the reason why I started my business. And for me, it was able to spend my time with my family whenever I wanted. I wanted to be able to, if on a Monday, January 30th, all I wanted to do was record this podcast and have the rest of the day off because I wanted to go somewhere. That's exactly what I wanted. And I think that's why entrepreneurs do it. When I have children, I want to be able to just take my kids. In Mexico, we don't have daycares like they do here. So we grew up different. And that was like my motivation of like, I don't want to take my kids to daycare all the time, but I want to be able to raise my children. I'll still have a nanny. Like, I'm not going to spend all the day with my kids. My parents never did. So still need my time off. But just freedom for me is being able to do whatever I want with my time.
That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, and just like Omid said, I'm echoing it again. We got to have a part 2. I mean, there's so many things to still cover. So promise us first that you're going to come back.
Yes, if you have me back, we should do like an after hours with tequila.
Yeah. Yes. Sold.
We got the promise on record.
Of course, I got you guys.
You're mobile, right? Where can everyone find you?
Yes, you can find us on Instagram. That is the best place, TikTok and YouTube, but everything is the same as Anna KCPA, 1 N ANA KCPA. If you can't find me, I'm sure you guys are following me, so go see who they're following. That's the best way to get in touch with us.
All right, Anna. So now this comes to the closing of our segment, and what we like to do is rattle some speakers out there. We like to, bust out some eardrums, right? So with that being said, on a count of 3, in uniform manner, all of us got to say go. All right, there you go. And for the listeners, I'm drinking some tea right now, getting ready.
Gotta get my vocal cords ready.
Getting ready as well. So let's better turn down your volume right now. All right. So, are we ready?
Ready.
All right, let's do it. All right, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Check this out here, right? We got the coolest Anna here that's going to not just be cool, not give you a way to live your life, but she also want to give you a way to make your life in a manner so you can save in your number one expense, which are taxes. So please reach out to her. Omid uses her. Sounds like I'm going to probably be jumping on board soon. And with that being said, make sure you get to her now. What we need from you, we need some help. We need you to really listen to, our podcast and leave an honest 5-star rating. We need you to subscribe, download, because we want to come back and give you more and more and more episodes just like this one today. Now, remember, make sure that you share this. Share this with your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your mother, your brother, your sister, and any and everyone, all your coworkers. Just take the link, email it to everybody in your contact list. So with that being said, we talk to everybody soon on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.